Chapter 981. After the holidays, Tangwa used a week to finish her homework. For the rest of the time, she worked part-time. Actually, she was no longer short of money. The few $100,000 that she had thrown into the stock market had become a few million now. She was sure that before school started, the number would reach tens of millions. But this was not enough. She estimated that it would be 50 million. According to her calculations, 50 million should be enough to help her settle those things. The system was secretly anxious. He really wanted to know what kind of big move the great host had in mind. He was the closest to the great host and had spent the most time with her, but he still could not guess what she was up to. This was the first time he had seen the great host so passionate about making money. She even used stocks to make money. She had to do it openly. But he did not ask, because even if he did, the great host would not tell him. After Su Meihui lent the money to Tangwa, she saw that her daughter was still the same as before. She didn't change much, so she felt relieved. She did not think that her daughter would change under her education. She was very busy with work and often had to go on business trips. She was very satisfied with her daughter's report card every semester. And in front of her, she behaved normally and did not show any signs of abnormality. So until now, she did not know that Tangwa's personal attacks in school had reached a peak. He believed that even an adult would more or less react in the face of such verbal attacks. Of course, Tangwa would not react differently. Even if it was the original Tangwa, before Zwaran and Wei Liang said those things, she could still take it. She was hurt because her trusted friends, the only two people who believed in her, stabbed her in the back in the end. When she found out that everything was in fact a conspiracy by the two of them, the thick wall that protected her heart collapsed as if it was hit by a flood. She broke down instantly and made such an extreme choice in the end. Moreover, these rumors did not only affect herself, but also her mother who loved her. In order to help her, her mother gave up her job. She was even criticized and harassed by others. Her heart could not take it, and she broke down mentally. She blamed herself in her heart and chose such a path. She didn't understand. She clearly didn't do anything. She just came to this legendary high school to study. She had been studying hard and doing her own things. His goal was simple, to gain knowledge and get into a good university. She didn't get in anyone's way, so why was she attacked by so many people in the end? She clearly didn't do anything, so why did those people viciously blame her? She stood on the rooftop and looked down at the group of people. Isn't it just the fact that you're a kept woman being exposed? What's the big deal? Why can't you figure it out? Wei Liang and Zwaran gave you a lot of money, right? You should be compensated. He probably didn't pay enough and threatened Zwaran by jumping off a building. Wei Liang, come over and pay him more. That's too greedy. Perhaps it was because she usually behaved too normally and never showed her weak side to others. She always kept everything in her heart. She always believed that everything would pass. One day, she would welcome the warm sunshine and live a good life. Chapter 982. She didn't think that her mentality would collapse so quickly and that she wouldn't be able to bear it one day. No one thought that she really wanted to jump off the building. They all thought that she was just threatening Wei Liang and Zwaran to ask for more money. During the holidays, Wei Liang and Zwaran didn't give up following Tangwa. When Tangwa went to work part-time, they would buy water, snacks, and her favorite ice cream. They didn't get impatient at all. After it was over, Tangwa would treat them to some snacks, hot pot, barbecue, and so on. The three of them got along quite well. When school was about to start, Zwaran went to look for Tangwa first. Xiaogua, we've known each other for so long. You should know me well, right? Tangwa looked up and smiled. What do you want to say? Zwaran leaned closer to her and said gently, the closer I get to you, the more attracted I am to you. Xiaogua, I'm sincerely pursuing you. I hope you can give me a chance. When Zwaran said this, he couldn't help but feel nervous. In the past, when he approached girls and said such things to them, he was always teasing them. He had never been so nervous that his palms were sweating. He thought that it was because of the hot weather, not because he cared about whether Tangwa agreed or not. He maintained a good-looking smile. When he expressed his feelings, almost all girls were attracted to his gentleness and sunshine. Xiaogua, you can think about it. I'll wait for your answer. I'm sorry, Zwaran. Tangwa shook her head almost without thinking. I've always treated you as a friend. I don't have any other thoughts. Whether it was the unfamiliar you or the familiar you now, I don't have any other thoughts. I'm very happy to know a good friend like you. Zoran's smile disappeared and his hands under the table clenched into fists. He really didn't expect that after trying for so many months, the answer he got was still so straightforward. She rejected him without hesitation. He stared at the beautiful girl in front of him and said again, Xiaogua, are you not willing to give me a chance? Can't you give it a try with me? I want to study seriously now. I won't consider personal relationships before university, and I really only treat you as my best friend. Therefore, I am very sorry. A look of helplessness flashed across Tangua's face. If you've been nice to me all this time because you like me, then let's meet less in the future. After being rejected again, Zoran was a little angry. However, he had always been very concerned about his image. He buried his head for a long time before a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Forget it. I forced you too much. The two of them sat together in silence for a while before leaving. A few days later, Wei Liang held a large bouquet of roses and confessed to Tangua, Xiaogua, I still like you in my heart. After thinking about it, I'm willing to try again. I hope you can give me a chance. Wei Liang was the same as Zoran. They were both filled with confidence. When he heard that Zoran had failed, he mocked him in his heart for a long time. Finally, it was his turn. He did not expect himself to be so nervous. He didn't think that he was nervous because he cared about Tangua. He was just afraid that if Tangua rejected him, he would be laughed at by Zoran. He was more prepared and was not as casual as Zoran. He didn't bring anything. He asked her to a milk tea shop and confessed. Chapter 983. He had heard that girls didn't like to be too casual, so he specially took care of his image. He bought beautiful roses and ordered high-end Western food. He was just waiting for Tangua to agree to take him to eat there. When Wei Liang's palms were sweating, Tangua's beautiful little face showed an apologetic smile. I'm sorry. Wei Liang's smile froze on his face. He never thought that he would be rejected like this. It was exactly the same as a few months ago. She didn't even think about it. Even if she hesitated for a moment, he would feel better. He had been so busy for so long. In order to confess to her, he had spent the whole day today just to give her a good impression. He thought that she would definitely agree, but he didn't expect that she would reject him. Then forget it. Wei Liang reacted quickly. You've already rejected me once. Looks like I'm overthinking. Tangua said a few words to the other party and then left. Wei Liang's face darkened. At this moment, Zoran called. Did it work? No. Wei Liang's voice was cold. He threw the roses on the ground and stomped on them. I can't accept it. After spending so much time, she didn't even hesitate. Could it be that she's just playing with us for fun? Let's drink at the usual place. Do you want to come? Wait for me. Ever since the failed confession, Zoran and Wei Liang didn't appear by Tangua's side. They were all arrogant, rich second-generation heirs. It was impossible for them to be rejected one after another, let alone kneel down and lick her boots. They didn't come to Tangua. Tangua also stopped working part-time. Since there was still a week before school started, she took a look at the stock market and cashed out most of her stocks. She left the rest in the stock market and continued to snowball. The stocks that she had bought previously were rising better than she had imagined. She had thought that she would be able to earn more than 10 million before school started. She didn't expect that she had cashed out about 20 million so far. One day, she curled up on the sofa at home and said to the system, "Help me find the private contact of the world's top lawyers. Also, get their weaknesses and hobbies." The system's data shook. It quickly replied, "Understood, dear host." He was now invincible on the internet. As long as there was an internet connection, no one could stop him. Within an hour, he found the information of the world's top lawyers. Not only did he obtain their personal contact information, but he also found out their weaknesses. All of their weaknesses were placed in front of Tangua. Tangua looked at their information and sighed. They're still too poor. Fortunately, I can pay for their expenses with other things. Tongzi, in the system space, pick out the things that they are interested in, take a photo, and send it to them. If they are interested, they will definitely contact you. All right, Madam Host, what should I tell them after they contact me? Tell them to come here. I have a lawsuit for them to fight. As long as they win, I will give them whatever they want. The system knew that the host was serious. He followed Tangwa's instructions. Those top lawyers were very surprised by this email that had appeared out of nowhere. This was because this was their private email, and outsiders did not know about it. When they saw something that they were interested in, they would contact the system. After the system notified Tangwa, Tangwa sent them a document. After seeing this document, 30 out of the 50 lawyers were willing to take on this special case. Chapter 984. On the day before school started, Tangwa met with 30 of the world's top lawyers. These lawyers from all over the world looked at each other in surprise when they found out that they had been invited to the same villa. Because they were all very famous and were in the same industry, they more or less knew about each other. They greeted each other, and when they saw that the host had not arrived yet, they began to talk about their visit. After the exchange, they found out that their employer notified them via email, and it was even through their personal email. Although they did not reveal the conditions of their visit, they were all smart people and should have guessed that it must be something that could satisfy each other. That was why they had come so easily. When Tangwa appeared in front of them, everyone stood up in surprise. Many years later, when they recalled this magical meeting, they would still remember it. Welcome, everyone, and thank you very much for coming. When they came, they were prepared. Although Tangwa spoke in English, some of them who were not good at English still understood Tangwa's words through the translator. Even though they were very surprised, they were still willing to wait patiently because the person who invited them was just an Asian girl who looked like she was in her teens. They greeted Tangwa in their own language. It can be said that they have gotten to know each other. Since you are here, it means that you are willing to take on this case. What is written in the email is true. I want to sue those people. Tangwa sat on the sofa and said calmly, I invited you and did not hesitate to use something that you were interested in exchange for this case. My purpose is to win this case. You are all the top lawyers in the world. As the saying goes, if the strong work together, you will not let me down. The lawyers looked at each other and said, Of course, we are here because we are confident that we can win this case. One of the lawyers said excitedly. Also, I am not here just for the treasure that Miss Tang took out that I am very interested in. I believe that they are the same. None of us have taken on a case like this before. We're more interested and curious. Miss Tang's way of thinking is too mysterious. What you're doing is too courageous. Like you, we are here for the purpose of winning. As long as they could win, they would get far more than the treasure that Tangwa gave them. This would be the first and most magical case in the world, because there were too many defendants in this case. However, we need to do a lot of preparatory work, which will take a lot of time. Miss Tang, if you're not in a hurry, we can use a year to collect evidence and guarantee that the other party won't be able to refute it. No, I'm in a hurry, Tangwa said. You only have 1 month to prepare. The lawyers present looked at each other and whispered to each other. They all thought that it would be a little difficult. I invited all of you here because I have sufficient evidence. I have all the evidence that you want. Tangwa took out a thick stack of CDs and put them on the coffee table. I think there's nothing more convincing than what's inside. If you still can't win this lawsuit with these things in your hands, I think your reputation will be ruined. The lawyers weren't annoyed by this sentence. Instead, they stared at the thick stack of CDs with great interest. Chapter 985. Tangwa stood up and said, Dear lawyers, ladies and gentlemen, you only have 1 month to prepare. I'll leave the things here to you. I have a lot of these things. You can call me anytime to get them. I have to start school tomorrow, so I'll take my leave. Tangwa turned and walked out with a smile on her face. After she left, the 30 lawyers couldn't wait to look at the contents of the CD. They were very curious about what was inside. The next day, Tangwa started school. The people in school still hadn't forgotten about her and would still look at her strangely. They observed for 2 days and realized that Zwaran and Weiliang didn't ask Tangwa to eat on the top floor of the cafeteria in the afternoon. At first, they didn't suspect anything. They just thought that they were in their 3rd year of high school and were more nervous about their studies, so they didn't ask Tangwa to eat. But 2 weeks later, Zwaran and Weiliang didn't even greet Tangwa when they saw her. This made people suspect that their relationship had broken down. Especially when people whispered bad things about Tangwa in front of them, they didn't react at all. After countless probing, They finally came to the conclusion that Tanghua, Zhuoran, and Wei Liang were no longer together. They might have fallen out with each other. It was also possible that the two of them were no longer interested in Tanghua. Seeing that she didn't quarrel, most people thought that the two of them had given her enough compensation and that they had broken up peacefully. Without Zhuoran and Wei Liang's protection, more people talked about Tanghua. From being a prostitute to being kept by an old man, people were talking about how Tanghua had been kept by both Wei Liang and Zhuoran at the same time. Some people even revealed that Tanghua had been fooling around with the two of them during the holidays. They probably had enough fun during the holidays and felt that there was nothing new about it. Since they had already gotten their hands on her, they definitely wouldn't be interested anymore. After all, these two people had always been like this, so it wasn't strange at all. Because of their generosity, wealth, and status, almost no one would say anything bad about them. Moreover, they didn't force the girl. The girl was willing, so there was nothing wrong at all. When Zhuoran and Wei Liang heard this, they just laughed. In fact, they often observed Tangua's figure from a corner. Seeing those people talking about her and scolding her to her face, she didn't feel good. But when they remembered Tangua's cold rejection, they didn't want to bother at all. They were waiting for her to beg them. As long as she asked and said that she needed their protection, even if she didn't want to be their girlfriend, for the sake of their past relationship, they would still help her. However, they did not see it coming. It could be said that they had already become angry out of humiliation. One day, Tanghua finished school. She was still in the same small alley, and Changzhan blocked her way. "Is something the matter, Senior Changzhan?" Changzhan's expression was complicated. "Are the rumors in school really not affecting you?" "No. Are you concerned about me?" Tanghua said with a smile. That bright smile really looked like a person who was fine. Changzhan wasn't sure if she could take it or not. "I will persuade them to help you explain. Senior Changzhan, you are really a good person. In the busy third year of high school, you still care about other people's business." Changzhan didn't like this kind of praise and said, "I just don't want to see my childhood friends do wrong. I will apologize to them for the harm they have caused you." Chapter 986. But, Senior, have you ever thought that once the damage has been done, there is no point in apologizing? Tanghua stopped smiling. "They are the ones at fault, not you. There is no point in apologizing." Changzhan was speechless. He looked at Tanghua with a complicated expression and asked, "Do you want to transfer schools? If you leave here, I can help you choose a better high school in another city. With your current grades, I guarantee that you will be able to enter a good university." Tanghua laughed again. "Then what am I doing?" "What do you mean?" Tanghua looked down and the corners of her mouth twitched. "I did nothing wrong, and I did not do those things in the rumors. Because of these rumors, everyone is attacking me, so I want to leave here. I want to go to a place where no one knows me. I did nothing wrong. So why am I the one who is running away and avoiding? One day, when they mention my name, they will still think of the girl who was once kept as a mistress and sold herself out. She was even kept as a mistress by two rich second-generation heirs at the same time. In the second semester of her second year of high school, she could not take it anymore and transferred schools. At class reunions, they will think of this and talk about it. They will ask each other if you know what happened to this girl named Tanghua. Maybe they will even say that she was kept as a mistress in high school. When she went to university, it must be the same. When she came out to work, she probably relied on the unspoken rules to get promoted. In any case, in their mouths, this girl named Tanghua will be filthy for the rest of her life, and she will never be able to escape from such rumors. This is not the scariest part. The scariest part is that this girl named Tanghua will really get what you want. She will move to the school you wanted and start a new life. She will be admitted to university and will have a stable and high-paying job after graduation. But one day, the people from that school will recognize her and even work in her company. They will spread rumors that did not exist in the past. At this point, Tanghua looked up and said to Changzhan, "Senior, do you think that the people in the company will believe the words of this girl named Tangua's former schoolmate? What do you think her colleagues will think of her? As long as such rumors don't disappear and don't prove my innocence, I'll never be able to do anything. For the rest of my life, no matter where I go, as long as someone recognizes me and continues to spread rumors, I will never be at peace." The scariest thing is that no one will believe me. They all think that there's no smoke without fire. If there's nothing wrong with me, why would there be such rumors? The person who spread the rumor is my schoolmate. They won't think that my schoolmate is lying. It's fine if it's just one schoolmate, but senior, I have countless schoolmates in this school. There are so many people talking about me every day that I can't even keep count. I don't even recognize most of them. They clearly don't know me well, but they can use rumors to ruin my life and just leave. So, why should I leave? Why am I the one who left? I'm not wrong. Changzhan couldn't refute her. He tried to imagine what she had said. Everything that had happened was basically the same as what she had said. Even if no one really met her in the future, the damage caused by the false rumors that she had been attacked by now was not something that could be resolved just by walking away. So, do you need me to do anything for you? Changzhan stared at the girl's clear eyes in front of him. I can help you. Chapter 987. I want an apology from them. Tanghua laughed softly. I want to prove my innocence. I want everyone to look at me as if I'm a girl from the same school, and not look at me with strange and disdainful gazes and whisper false rumors. What I want is a normal learning environment. I can prove your innocence. You are definitely not the kind of person the rumors say you are. Changzhan said. Tanghua shook her head. Her smile was a little sarcastic. Senior, you can help me prove it, but they won't believe you. On the contrary, she did not continue. Changzhan had already thought of what she would say next. On the contrary, those people would say that this girl named Tanghua was really despicable. First, she successfully hooked up with two rich second-generation heirs, and after being rejected by them, she hooked up with Changzhan. It was obvious that she was the kind of person who sold herself out. Perhaps those words were worse than he had imagined. Changzhan frowned, and for the first time, he felt frustrated with his own ability. Gossip was a fearful thing. Even if he was a rich second-generation heir with an extraordinary background, his personal ability was not bad. In the face of countless people, he could not prove the innocence of an innocent girl. It was also the first time he felt that he was really useless. But he still wanted to do something. So he raised his head and looked at Tanghua. Is there anything I can do for you? His eyes showed some confusion, thinking about the blood-sucking people in the school. It seemed that no matter what he did, even if he was just a little closer to Tanghua, she would be subjected to even more terrifying personal attacks. Tanghua saw Changzhan's sadness, laughed, walked in front of Changzhan, and patted him on the shoulder. Senior, you should study hard. You can't help me with anything. There's always something I can do. My math results are not bad. I'll help you with math. After thinking for a while, Changzhan squeezed out this sentence. The system laughed silently at the side. Not bad at math? Its master host was a great mathematician, kid. You're still inexperienced. No need to trouble, senior. My math results are full marks. Tanghua said with a smile. Changzhan suddenly thought of her impressive results, only that 1 mark was deducted from her language, and his expression was slightly awkward. Then I'll send you home. As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly shook his head. I won't cause you any trouble. Okay, you can send me home in the future. Unexpectedly, Tanghua answered. Changzhan was stunned for a moment. Is that okay? It won't cause you any more trouble. He wasn't afraid of being gossiped about, but he was afraid of hurting her. If he really sent her home, he didn't know what the people at school would say behind his back. Do I not have enough troubles now? Tanghua smiled. Chapter 988. Senior, you're a man of your word. Changzhan shook his head and flipped open the math exercise book. When the two arrived at school and got out of a car, they were met with countless judgmental looks. After Tanghua and Changzhan thanked each other, they walked to the classroom expressionlessly, ignoring the disdainful looks and whispers. At noon, Changzhan went to Tanghua's classroom. Since she was not afraid of being sent home by him, she was not afraid to eat with him. Tanghua agreed readily, ignoring the strange looks of the students in the classroom. She smiled and followed Changzhan to the cafeteria. When they reached the top floor, they naturally met Zhuoran and Weiliang. When the two saw Tanghua and Changzhan coming together, they looked at each other and did not greet Tanghua. At first, they thought that Changzhan only asked Tanghua to come up for lunch because he met her by chance. Later, they saw the two of them chatting while eating. They were even talking about math, and no one else could get a word in. For Changzhan's sake, they could only eat with sullen faces and did not say anything. After Tanghua finished eating and left, Song Zhouchen saw that the situation was not right and also left with Bai Fei. The two of them stared at Changzhan. Wei Liang asked, "Changzhan, what's going on? Why did you ask her to eat? You seem to be very close to her." Zhuo Ran also questioned. Changzhan's reaction was calm. "I asked her to come up for lunch. Are you trying to ease the tension between us?" Zhuo Ran hesitated and asked. If that was the case, it was indeed something that Changzhan would do. However, he still felt that there was something strange. Changzhan said, "No." This time, Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang became angry. "Are you interested in her too? Or did she seduce you?" Zhuo Ran said with a sullen face. "Changzhan, we told you before that if you're interested in her, just say it. Tell me, did she seduce you, or did you seduce her?" Wei Liang asked angrily as if he wanted to eat someone. Changzhan's expression was still cold. "Neither. She and I are friends. Who are you trying to fool? She must be the one who seduced you," Wei Liang said with an ugly expression. No wonder. No wonder she didn't accept us and even got close to you. It turns out that she wasn't in a relationship at all. She just didn't want to be with us." That's true. The Chang family's background is much deeper than ours. Previously, there were more girls who fancied Changzhan than us. It was only because they saw that Changzhan was like a block of wood that they agreed to us, Zhuo Ran said. Changzhan shook his head when he saw how excited the two of them were. He then left with the mathematics book in his arms. These two people would never realize their mistakes. They also didn't realize that their current actions were simply jealousy. "Changzhan, you're so mean." Hearing Wei Liang shouting, Changzhan didn't want to bother with him anymore. He suddenly felt that it was normal for her to look down on them. Because Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang flew into a rage out of humiliation, the two of them even played tricks behind the scenes, causing Tanghua to be their sugar baby for a holiday. Everyone knew about it, and it didn't seem like a groundless accusation at all. They even released some photos. Actually, these photos were just photos of her having fun with them. However, because they were taken from different angles, they looked very intimate. The forum was filled with intimate photos of Tanghua and the two of them. That day, the form teacher called Tanghua to the office. "Classmate Tanghua, can you explain?" Chapter 989. Tanghua stood in front of the homeroom teacher and said seriously, "Teacher, this is fake. I was just friends with them. It's different from the rumors." "Since it's fake, why is it spreading like wildfire now?" The homeroom teacher had a look of disbelief on her face. There had been many rumors about Tanghua before, but because of this student's excellent grades, together with Tanghua, she had 2 of the top 5 students in the grade. As long as it didn't cause too much of an impact and spread rumors among the students, Tanghua was with Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang, 2 rich second-generation heirs with extraordinary backgrounds. She would turn a blind eye to it. Now, the school forum was full of photos of them behaving intimately. She had already received several calls from the students' parents, asking if this was true. After all, this high school was the best high school in the city. If this matter spread, it would be very bad for the school's reputation. Whether Tanghua did those things or not, as long as it didn't spread and didn't bring trouble to the school and her, she couldn't care less. She was just a homeroom teacher. As long as the students were safe and studying in school, she would do her duty. The students nowadays were all the treasures of their families. She didn't dare to interfere. The more she interfered, the more mistakes she would make. As for the rumors, Tanghua didn't come looking for her. Her grades were still among the best, and she even got first place last semester. If it hadn't blown up like this, the principal would have asked her to investigate this matter. If this continued, in a few days, the students' parents and reporters would come looking for her. Many people had their eyes on the school. If a few big pieces of news came out, everyone would be especially interested. Facing the homeroom teacher's question, Tanghua replied, "Teacher, I listen in class every day and do my homework after class. I never have any conflicts with others. After school, I go home and occasionally go out to do some part-time jobs. You asked me why this kind of thing that was originally made out of nothing would spread like wildfire. Actually, I'm also very curious as to why everyone is talking about this matter. Ever since I entered this high school, there have been endless rumors, but I sat upright and thought that if I didn't care, they would just talk about it and let it pass. I didn't expect it to turn out like this. The homeroom teacher frowned and said, "This matter has already caused a lot of impact on the school. Some parents have heard about it and have already asked us to give them an explanation. So, teacher, what kind of explanation do you think we should give them?" Tangwa stared at the homeroom teacher with her beautiful eyes. "Teacher, did you call me here to prove my innocence and dispel those rumors? If that's really the case, I can cooperate with you to investigate. I believe that with the efforts of the teachers, they will definitely be able to catch those who started the rumors and clear my name." The homeroom teacher didn't expect that before she could even ask Tangwa about herself, the other party would first say that they wanted to help her investigate the rumors. However, if this matter really wasn't Tangwa's problem, but some students spreading rumors, it was indeed a good thing for her class. Tangwa's grades were too outstanding. In fact, other than those rumors, it didn't bring her any trouble. "Tell me honestly, you really didn't do those things?" Tangwa shook her head. "How could I possibly do those things? To tell you the truth, although I was born into a single-parent family, my mother is a very hard-working person." Chapter 990. My mother has created a good learning environment for me, and I have some eloquence and acting skills. Occasionally, I will go out to do some part-time jobs to earn some pocket money. The form teacher in front of her was not a malicious person. It was just that in today's society, most people were relatively self-centered. As long as it did not have much to do with them, they would not want to get into trouble. In this world, most people did not do anything. In particular, the students in this school were either rich or respectable. Among them, the teachers were considered a vulnerable group. Of course, this excluded those who were in cahoots with those who started the rumors. Originally, when this matter had happened, the form teacher had also called Tangwa to the office to ask about this matter. Just like now, the other party's attitude was very calm, and there was not much disdain in her eyes. Tangwa's answer was similar to hers. Both of them said that she did not do such a thing. If possible, she hoped that the school could help her investigate. The homeroom teacher agreed and went to the principal. She didn't think that Tangwa was a bad girl. This form teacher was almost 50 years old, but she still had a good eye for people. She felt that this matter needed to be investigated thoroughly. It would be best if the two parties involved could come forward to testify. After all, the impact was already very big. The school respected such experienced teachers and went to look for Zwaran and Whaleyong. However, the two of them were not willing to come forward to testify for Tangwa. The form teacher saw that the matter was getting worse. She had no choice but to look for Tangwa again. Seeing the pretty girl in front of her so obedient, she could not bear to see her like this. She had also specially investigated and found that Tangwa did use her free time to do part-time jobs. She did not mess around. She had originally intended to ask the school to inform the students not to spread false rumors and to show that Tangwa was a good student with good character and academic performance. However, the school felt that if they directly reported the current situation, the parents who were watching them would think that they couldn't bear to part with this girl who had good grades but was full of flaws. They would be dissatisfied and transfer their children to another school. Now, many parents had already expressed their opinions. Either their children would transfer to another school, or they would expel Tangwa. The homeroom teacher had no choice but to tactfully say to Tangwa, "Why don't you transfer schools first? There's still one more semester before your senior year. It's good to have a change of environment." Tangwa was unwilling. If she transferred to another school, wouldn't it be equivalent to admitting that she had done all these? The stubbornness in her bones made it impossible for her to leave the school. The rumor of her being the mistress of two rich second-generation heirs spread like wildfire. Sometimes, when she returned home from school, she would be scolded by her parents. All kinds of unpleasant words fell on her body. In just one short week, no one knew what kind of pressure she had suffered. At that time, Su Meihui was on a business trip, so she had no idea what kind of verbal attacks her daughter had suffered at school. In the end, some parents even chased her to the classroom to scold her. If it weren't for the school's people stopping them, they would probably have hit her. They scolded her, calling her a little bitch. Not only did they scold her, but they also scolded her mother, Su Meihui. At this time, she finally decided to find Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang and asked them to prove her innocence. In the end, of course, the two of them admitted in public that she had been kept as a mistress for a holiday, and it was done by them at the same time. Chapter 991. All of her hopes collapsed at this moment. Because of the two parties involved, the school finally decided to expel Tanghua on the grounds that she had caused a negative impact on the school. After that, Su Meihui came back and found out about this matter. She first scolded her, and then brought her to seek justice. She quit her job because of her. Her incident was on the news, and the news of her being kept by a rich second-generation heir spread to almost every corner. In the end, of course, justice could not be sought. The mother and daughter still had to live on, so Su Meihui found another job. The boss of the company also knew Su Meihui and knew that she had a daughter who was kept by a rich second-generation heir. Su Meihui was only in her 30s. She had good taste, maintained herself well, and had a good temperament. The boss often harassed her. Unfortunately, Tanghua saw it, and it eventually led to that tragedy. Tanghua looked at the form teacher in front of her and said, "Teacher, I really did not do those things. The only thing I want now is to study hard and get into a good university." The form teacher believed her. She believed this girl with clean eyes in front of her. "Then I will report this matter to the school and see if I can communicate with the two boys and get them to clarify the matter for you." As long as the two rich second-generation heirs were willing to testify, this matter could be settled. As for the other rumors in the school, there was no basis at all. It was much easier to control them. To be honest, she could not bear to let such an outstanding student go. She also sympathized with her. "Thank you, teacher." The two of them talked for a long time. At this time, the next class had already started. Tanghua walked to the door of the classroom. Before she could speak, the language teacher looked at her with disdain and said, "If you're late, just stand outside and listen. I hope that all students will pay attention to their own morals, especially in a sacred place like the school. Do not bring in all kinds of bad habits and affect other students." The language teacher adjusted her glasses and continued, "Students should act like students. The school is a place for lessons. Comparing and dressing up gorgeously will affect the school's appearance." After saying a few words, the language teacher ignored Tanghua and continued with the class. When the class was over, the language teacher walked down from the podium. As he walked past Tanghua, he frowned and said, "Student, I hope that you won't bring that kind of atmosphere to the class and affect the other students." "Teacher Chun, what do you mean by atmosphere?" Tanghua looked straight at him. The language teacher's face stiffened. "You know what you've done. Do you need me to point it out? You were 20 minutes late last time. Where have you been fooling around?" She didn't like Tanghua to begin with. That girl was pretty and a little arrogant. She wasn't likable at all. Once, she accidentally bumped into Su Meihui, a very young and beautiful woman who was also the manager of a large company. At that time, she had been thinking about how she had become a manager at such a young age and was even a single mother. Who knew how many unspoken rules she had gone through? Later, when the rumors about Tanghua came out, she firmly believed in her own speculation. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Isn't it easy for a beautiful woman to be promoted? Who knew? Tanghua might have been accidentally conceived by her and had no choice but to give birth to her. "Teacher Chun, you can actually ask the form teacher if I've been fooling around with her." When these words came out, the surrounding people laughed. Chapter 992. The language teacher's expression changed. She didn't expect this student to dare to talk back. She left in a huff. This girl with bad conduct would be expelled very soon. She didn't want to say anything more to her. The homeroom teacher told her thoughts and the school's reaction. The school agreed to ask Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang first. After all, these two were involved. As long as they were willing to say that they were innocent with Tanghua, there wouldn't be any problems. She didn't expect that the two of them would refuse to talk to her about this. They were even more unwilling to prove Tanghua's innocence. Before school ended in the afternoon, the homeroom teacher found Tanghua and said that the communication had failed. At the same time, She suggested that she should transfer to another school. This place was no longer suitable for her to study. Maybe they think that I'm not sincere enough. I'll ask them myself, Tangwa said with a hopeful expression. What do you think, teacher? The homeroom teacher thought for a while and replied, Go ahead and ask them. If it doesn't work, I suggest you transfer to another school. Don't ruin your life because of rumors. She was just a small homeroom teacher. She couldn't do anything about this. She didn't dare to provoke those two boys either. When she was young, she had a very straightforward temper. People with such a temper would always hit a wall countless times before they learned their lesson. If she was more tactful and indifferent, her life would be easier. If she learned to ignore and meddle in other people's business, there would be less trouble. Many times, it was fine if she didn't get any results out of kindness. She might even be unrewarded. But this time, she really felt a little regretful. After spending a short time together, she thought that this girl was really good. She was a little regretful. If she had taken care of the rumors in the beginning, perhaps things wouldn't have turned out this way. There was a class in the afternoon. Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran had a physical education class. Under normal circumstances, they would play basketball in physical education class. Tangwa took the opportunity to look for the two of them after class. Her appearance on the basketball court attracted a lot of attention. Some people even went to watch. Especially when they saw her walking towards Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran, they were even more curious. They even took out their phones to take pictures. Tangwa's expression was indifferent. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. History is about to repeat itself. I wonder what their choice this time will be. The system's data was shaking. He glanced at the two handsome boys in the distance. He didn't think that these two people would change their minds. At least, according to past experience, humans were wretched wretches. Without learning the most terrible lesson, he would never know his mistakes. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang also saw Tangwa walking towards them. They looked at each other and stopped playing basketball, waiting for Tangwa to come in front of them. What are you doing here? Wei Liang asked. However, it was impossible to get them to agree immediately. To prove that there's nothing going on between us and that there's no mistaking. Moreover, we were friends before. Tangwa looked at the two people in front of her with a sincere look, with some expectations. 2. T. Chapter 993. She dared to look for them only because they were the only two people in the school who stood by her side and believed in her. After being together for so long, she thought that these two people would help her explain. The people around also stared at Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang, waiting for them to say something. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang suddenly laughed. They looked at Tangwa mockingly, thinking that she was a little naive. Wei Liang laughed. What's there to prove? We are in that kind of relationship. Yeah. Is it because you don't have enough money? Zhuo Ran took out a wallet from his pocket, took out a stack of money and stuffed it into Tangwa's hand. His voice was a little flirtatious as he said, Just tell us if you need money. Seeing that you worked so hard during the holidays, we won't leave you alone. Zhuo Ran, give her more. No matter what, she's still a woman who has been with us. We can't let her suffer. Wei Liang said loudly, But we can give you money, but if you want to restore our relationship, forget it. We're no longer interested in you. As the two spoke, they observed Tangwa's expression. They were looking forward to it. She was like a broken doll, everything collapsing at this moment. Of course, what they were looking forward to was presented. They saw that this clean girl in front of them had a look of disbelief and despair in her eyes. There were also sounds of discussion around them. They were smiling, but they felt a little uncomfortable in their hearts. Wow, so it's true. Zhuo Ran and the others have admitted it. So she really is their mistress. So she wants money. She's too greedy. Zhuo Ran frowned slightly, but his gaze was still on Tangwa. Tangwa threw the money in her hand. A drop of tear fell from the corner of her eye. Her voice was a little choked. Please help me prove that nothing happened between us. We're just friends. We've always been innocent. She took a step forward and tugged at Wei Liang's sleeve, but was flung away. Wei Liang put aside the pity in his heart and said in a cold voice with a hint of sarcasm, Take the money and leave. You can't be acting and standing at the same time, right? No, Nothing happened between the two of us at all. It's not that kind of relationship. However, the onlookers clearly didn't believe that Zhuoran and Wei Liang were rich second-generation heirs, but there was no need for them to lie about such things. They believed without hesitation that what they were hearing was the truth. No matter what Tanghua said, they just ignored her. She took the clothes back to the classroom and wanted to chase after him, but she was stopped by the others. In less than 10 minutes, everything that had happened was recorded and posted on the forum. That day, the school received many calls from parents, saying that they must expel such a bad student. They all thought that this girl must have seduced a male classmate. They couldn't blame Zhuoran and Wei Liang, but they could still expel a girl who ruined the school's reputation. Tanghua looked at the various curses on the internet. She put away her phone and said to the system soon, if Su Meihui knew about this, she would definitely come back immediately. She said to the system, block everything about the school from my mother's phone. Don't let her see it. According to the timeline, Su Meihui saw this on the news and immediately ended a very important project and rushed back. As long as she didn't see it, it was enough for her to do something. As for the rest, he would explain it slowly. Chapter 994. Changzhan, what are you doing? Zhuoran and Wei Liang didn't expect that Changzhan would bring his bodyguards to beat them up. Now, they were tied to the sofa and couldn't move. Changzhan looked at them coldly. You've disappointed me. Changzhan, are you crazy? Wei Liang shouted. You're beating us up because of a girl? This isn't about a girl, but your methods are too vicious. Changzhan ordered the bodyguards coldly. Beat them up again. Io, Changzhan, you're crazy. If you like her, just say it. We won't do anything to her. Changzhan frowned and dialed Tanghua's number. When he heard a voice on the other side, he spoke first. It's me. Senior Changzhan? Yes. Changzhan hesitated. I've already tied them up. What do you want to do? I'll help you. Tanghua was surprised for a moment. She said with a slightly low voice, what they said has already been spread like wildfire. It's useless, senior. There are already many parents who want the school to expel me. I'll help you. You won't be expelled. Tell me, what do you want to do? Hearing that low and helpless voice, Changzhan's heart sank. He felt terrible. He thought that if she didn't like them, there wouldn't be any problems. He was too naive. He had completely forgotten how bad their personalities were. I'll take them to school and help you clarify. Senior, now no one will believe that these are fake. Changzhan pursed his lips. Looking at the two who were still being beaten, he panicked. Where are you? I'm at home. I'll help you transfer schools. No. Then what do you want? Those who make mistakes have to pay the price. The voice was cold. Changzhan felt that something was wrong. He thought of those who couldn't take the rumors and chose to commit suicide. He panicked. Senior, bye-bye. I won't say any more. When the call was hung up, Changzhan felt a little uneasy. If anything happens to her, you won't be able to absolve yourselves from the blame. You can only regret it for the rest of your lives. Zhuoran and Wei Liang didn't think much of it. There were so many rumors in the past, but she didn't do anything. They were just teaching her a lesson. When they were in a better mood, they would help her clear her name. The next day, Changzhan asked the driver to wait at the alley not far from Tanghua's house. Seeing that she came out safe and sound, he heaved a sigh of relief. Tanghua continued to take his car to school. When she arrived at school, she found that the school had been gambled. Seeing this, Changzhan hurriedly stuffed her into the car, his expression extremely ugly. The situation was more serious than he had imagined. Some of them were parents, while others were reporters. The parents were very agitated. Expel him. He must be expelled. What's wrong with your school? How could you let such a person study here? My daughter is only 15 years old this year. What if she leads you astray? If you don't expel him, I'll transfer him to another school immediately. I really didn't expect that the best high school would have such a bad student. You have to give us an explanation. Changzhan's expression was still as cold as ever. I'll send you home. I won't go today. Let me get out of the car, senior. No. TXT 2016 website. 100,000. After finishing this book, You can download TXT directly on your phone. Peek. Chapter 995. Tanghua pushed Changzhan away and got out of the car. Changzhan didn't know that she was so strong. Seeing that someone had noticed her, he quickly followed her. It's her, right? I think so. It's that little bitch. Great, you little bitch. You actually came to school. If you like to prostitute yourself, why don't you just sell yourself in society? What's the point of studying? One look and I can tell that she's not a decent person. She looks like a vixen. Those two boys were probably seduced by her. All kinds of nasty words entered their ears. If it weren't for someone stopping them, these parents would have rushed up to Tanghua and hit her. However, some people directly threw things that they could throw at Tanghua. Changzhan quickly protected her in his arms. Immediately, a parent said, "Young man, don't be fooled by her. Why is this kind of dirty little bitch so rare? Don't ruin your own future." Those people scolded her with ferocious faces. There were also people around watching. Many people in the school were also watching. Most of them were looking at her with disdain. A small number of people didn't want to get involved. They either stood silently by the side or turned to leave. Tanghua was protected by Changzhan as they walked to the school gate. At this moment, the person in charge of the school came out. The parents were silent. "Dear parents, after an emergency discussion with the school, we feel that Tanghua's behavior has indeed caused trouble for the students and seriously damaged the school's image. Therefore, we have decided to expel her as a punishment." Tanghua looked at the person who spoke and the parents who were laughing happily and clapping their hands. "It's a good decision to expel her. She deserves to be expelled. Good, good. You did the right thing. This kind of person who corrupts the school's image deserves to be expelled." The reporters also rushed to Tanghua and asked all kinds of sharp questions. Tanghua looked up at them with a pair of beautiful and clear eyes. "I just want to say that I didn't corrupt the school's image, nor did I do what the rumors said. Instead, it's you people who are ruining my reputation and spreading false rumors." Of course, before she could finish, she was interrupted by the parents. Changzhan saw that the situation was not right and quickly escorted her into the car. She rolled down the car window and flashed a bright smile at everyone. "One day, those who spread rumors will pay the price." Changzhan sent Tanghua home in silence, not knowing what to say. "Which city do you want to go to?" After thinking about it, he could only help her like this. Tanghua shook her head. "I don't want to go anywhere for the time being. I'll definitely prove your innocence." Tanghua smiled. "Thank you." "No, don't thank me. This is what I should do." He was the one who didn't stop Zhuoran and Weiliang in time. Changzhan said goodbye to Tanghua and went back to think of a way to do it. He was smart, but he was not yet 18 years old. There were many resources that he could not use. He did not expect to hear news about Tanghua again, and it was from the class group. Tanghua climbed to the school's rooftop. She's going to jump off the building. Seeing this news, Changzhan's heart skipped a beat. He did not care about anything else and rushed to the school. Zhuoran and Weiliang also knew about this immediately. After looking at each other, they quickly put on their clothes and went to the school. When they arrived at the school's tallest building, they saw the girl sitting on the rooftop. It was so high that her legs were dangling in the air, and her body looked like it would fall at any time. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. TXT 2016 website. 100,000. After finishing this book, you can download TXT directly on your phone. Peek. Chapter 996. "Xiaogua, come down quickly," Zhuoran shouted in a trembling voice. She looked at Tanghua's legs hanging in the air. This teaching building was the tallest, with 8 floors. If she really fell from here, she would be crippled even if she didn't die. "Come down quickly. Let's talk nicely, okay?" "Xiaogua, come down." Wei Liang's eyes turned red. "Come down. Okay?" Tanghua smiled and looked at the two of them. She said in an ethereal tone, "Where do I come down? Do I just jump down like this?" "No." Zhuoran and Weiliang shouted at the same time. They quickly shook their heads. "No, Xiaogua, turn around and put your legs back. Come down from the stairs." That's too troublesome. It's easier to just come down from here. Zuoran and Wei Liang's lips and teeth were trembling. No, they didn't think of such an outcome. This wasn't what they wanted. 1 ton. 1 ton and 1 t/I. They just wanted to teach her a lesson. They just couldn't take it lying down. They didn't expect her to climb to such a high place. I beg you, come down. Okay? Wei Liang was really scared. He simply knelt on the ground. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Come down. After you come down, you can do whatever you want. Okay? Seeing this, Zuoran also knelt down. Her knees hit the ground with a bang. Everyone who heard the sound felt pain. But the two of them completely forgot about the pain. They just wanted to call the girl down from the rooftop. Wrong, they were all wrong. They shouldn't have done that. Seeing that she still had a smile on her face, they felt even worse. Listen up, Wei Liang suddenly shouted. The people around him quieted down and looked at him. He said loudly, all of you, listen up. Wei Liang. He grabbed Zuoran's collar and pulled her up. He said with a ferocious expression, and him, Zuoran, the two of us in Tangwa have always been innocent. Nothing happened. After saying that, he looked at the hesitant crowd. It was obvious that they didn't believe him. He was the one involved. If he said nothing, then nothing happened. Those rumors were spread by Zuoran and me. It was all my doing. Zuoran said, yes, it was all done by the two of us. Everything was done by us. The two of us spread rumors because we failed to pursue Xiao Guo. Our plan is to wait for the whole school to attack her before we approach her. That way, we will be the only ones who believe in her, and she will definitely treat us differently. At that time, if we pursue her again, she might agree. Wei Liang continued, I didn't expect that she would still reject me, saying that she needs to study hard now. So, we flew into a rage out of humiliation and ignored the rumors that she was our mistress. We even accelerated the spread of the rumors. Zuoran's eyes stung. We refused the school's request for us to come out and prove this matter. When she came to us that day, out of revenge, we admitted to the groundless relationship between us. She has always treated us as friends. It was us who got angry out of humiliation and wanted to take revenge on her. That's why she said that we took care of her for a vacation. Wei Liang said loudly, she has never spent any of our money, let alone received any gifts from us. Even if we treated her to some snacks and lunch, she would still treat us to some snacks in the afternoon. TXT 2016-inch website. 100,000. After finishing this book, you can download TXT directly on your phone. Peak. Chapter 997. She's an innocent girl. She really didn't do anything in the rumors. The voices of the two were like roars. After they finished speaking, they observed the expressions of the crowd and realized that they were still looking at them suspiciously. Someone even said, in order to save their classmate, these two boys are really benevolent. They actually took all the blame on themselves. Yeah, that's right. In front of life, nothing is important. These two boys are quite responsible. Yeah, that girl is really making a mountain out of a molehill. Just because of some rumors, she wants to die. You've been sitting up there for so long. Why don't you jump down? Yeah, didn't you want to jump? Why don't you jump? Zuoran and Wei Liang thought that they had proven Tang was innocent and told the truth. The people around them would definitely believe them. Tangwa was really an innocent girl. There was no false news between her and them at all. They never thought that the crowd's reaction would be like this. They rubbed their heads and panicked. Their eyes were filled with despair. How could this be? How could this be? They had clearly explained it clearly. Didn't they already hear the truth of the matter? Why didn't they believe it? What they heard was still Tangwa making a mountain out of a molehill. Children these days really couldn't take any pressure at all. Such a fragile mentality really couldn't compare to their original selves. If they couldn't take it, they would climb so high and cause trouble for everyone. Children these days were really hard to control. They had to use this method to solve everything. That's right. She even wanted the two boys to kneel down in front of everyone and explain to her. She wouldn't come down even if they begged her. They had already gone to this extent. What else did she want? Shut up. Wei Liang shouted in panic. What do you know? What I said is all true. If you say any more, I'll get someone to tear your mouth apart." His eyes looked like they were about to pop out. His fierce look did indeed make the discussions around him become much quieter. However, these people stopped talking. Instead, they followed the post online and even live-streamed the scene. The scene in front of them made the two of them feel hopeless and helpless. They felt that this group of people was so unfamiliar to them. How did this happen? At this moment, they finally realized how terrifying it was to be ridiculed, despised, and cursed when the whole world didn't believe you, blamed you, and thought you were a joke. It was too terrifying. This world that was attacked by words was terrifying and dark. It was so hopeless that it chilled one's heart, but there was no way to prove one's innocence. Xiaoguo, ever since she entered this high school, she had been subjected to all kinds of attacks every day. Yet, she could still smile, and her smile was so clean. She could also work part-time in the mall, perform shows, sing and dance, bring laughter to people, and promote products for customers. They stared blankly at the girl with an indifferent expression on the rooftop. Their hearts were suffocating. So, how did such an optimistic, cheerful, and clean girl get forced up step by them? Tanguo. Changzhan had already climbed to the rooftop and carefully approached Tanguo. It was not that he wanted to make a sound, but the moment he came up, the other party had already discovered him. He had no choice but to call for Dr. Li. Suicide is not enough to solve the problem. Come down with me, okay? Changzhan stretched out his palm. Come, hold my hand. TXT 2016 website. 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download TXT on your phone. Peak. Chapter 998. In the future, I'll face it with you. No matter how many obstacles there are in the future, I'll be with you. Even if countless people misunderstand you, I'll believe you. I'm willing to always help you prove your innocence. Tanguo returned a smile. Senior, you're really a good person. No, it's my fault. I didn't pay attention to the outside world and didn't stop Swaran and Wei Liang from hurting you. I didn't expect such consequences. If I stopped them in time, you wouldn't have been hurt so much. As a bystander, I'm also guilty. I'm guilty of being indifferent and careless. I didn't warn my good friends and let them commit such an unforgivable mistake, Changzhan said. Don't look at it coldly just because it doesn't concern you. If I had been more enthusiastic, the result wouldn't have been like this. Tanguo, come down, okay? Tanguo looked at Changzhan with a smile and said, Senior, I don't want to come down. I have something important to do now. Her voice was soft and carried to Changzhan's ears along with the wind. In the past, I only wanted to be innocent and prove that I didn't do those things. Now, I want more than that. Changzhan felt that something was wrong. He heard her say, if you do something wrong, you have to be punished. If you spread rumors, you can harm a living life. Spreading rumors has always been a crime. She stood up. Changzhan's heart skipped a beat. He thought that she was going to do something and the blood drained from his face. He didn't dare to rush over, afraid that he would agitate her. Tanguo saw that there were more and more people downstairs. There were her classmates, schoolmates, teachers, parents who came in to watch the show, reporters, and passers-by. There were also people who were serious and discussing how to save her. Countless people were discussing why she chose to do this. Some people were saying whether she should jump or not. It was really a waste of her mood. If there was one, there would be a second. Such words were really infuriating, but she wasn't angry at all. She picked up the bag next to her, and under Changzhan's shocked gaze, she took out a loudspeaker. She turned it on, and the sound immediately spread to every corner of the school. All right, stop making noise. Listen to me. The harsh words that came from the loudspeaker silenced the people who were discussing below. Countless onlookers looked at the girl standing on the rooftop and speaking with a megaphone in shock. He did not understand. Nowadays, jumping off buildings was so high class that they had to use a loudspeaker to communicate with the crowd. First, I have to apologize to the uncles who planned to save me. I've really caused you trouble, Tanguo said apologetically. The members of the rescue team looked at each other and shouted through the loudspeaker, Young lady, what's the matter? Let's come down and talk, okay? They had done this many times, and not every time could they successfully save the lives of those young people. In fact, when they heard the discussions around them, they were very angry. However, they were here to save people. Every moment was very precious. They didn't have the time to argue with these people. Life was the most important thing. Every time they successfully saved a life, their hearts would be comforted. Those terrible words were very likely to cause trouble for their rescue. The lives that could have been saved would be lost because of those words. TXT2016 website. Less than 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download TXT on your phone. Peak. Chapter 999. Now that they heard that the girl above was still willing to communicate with them, they were naturally very happy. Tangwa looked at them, winking at her, intending to sneak up and take her down. She really thought that they were very cute. First of all, I want to say that I don't plan to jump off the building. As for why I'm here, it's because I think it's easier to be noticed if I stand high. I give you the impression that I'm a bad girl who hooks up with boys and is being kept by others. We're standing at the same level. If you surround me, I'm afraid you'll drown me with your saliva. That's why I chose this place. Today, I'm going to say what I want to say, Tangwa said to the rescue team members. I'm really sorry for causing you trouble. You don't have to quietly take me down. I'm 17 years old this year. My grades are first in the cohort. I'm good-looking and have a lot of good points. I have a mother who loves me, and my future can be said to be bright. So, why did I choose to commit suicide? As if to prove that she was not going to commit suicide, she stepped in. Okay, you should be relieved now. If possible, I hope you can wait for me to finish before you leave. Of course, if you're not interested, you can leave, but in a few days, someone will come looking for you. I think it's better for you to listen. Seeing that Tangwa really stepped in and did not seem to intend to commit suicide, the rescue team discussed with each other and felt that they still had to do the preparation work and listen to what the other party had to say. Especially when they heard that the other party was the first in the cohort, they took it even more seriously. They did not know what forced such an outstanding child to talk to the rooftop. Okay, everyone is quiet. Then I'll start. Changzhan also came to Tangwa's side. Seeing that she was indeed not excited and did not intend to jump down, he was relieved. Seeing that he had come, she only glanced at him and continued to speak with the loudspeaker. First of all, regarding the false rumors in the school that I'm being kept by an old man and sold out, I can solemnly state here that I did not do those things. Secondly, the rumors that I'm being kept by the two rich second-generation heirs downstairs are also false. Thirdly, regarding the school's decision to expel me because of a parent's complaint without investigating the truth, I will hold you responsible. Fourth, since I entered this school, I will use legal means to protect the rights and interests of all those who spread false rumors, slandered me, and attacked me personally. She glanced at the stunned people below and said with a smile, "Don't you understand? Well, to put it simply, you're about to be sued by me." Everyone looked at Tangwa in shock. Was this girl crazy? Also, the parents outside who were very agitated a few days ago. I'm sorry, but not only did you verbally attack me, you even hit me. You will also be sued by me. That person was you, Teacher Chen. As a teacher, you can't use words to attack your own student without evidence. So, you will also be sued by me. Tangwa took out a thick stack of names from her bag and looked up. Next, the people whose names I read will be the targets of my lawsuit. Everyone turned pale with fright as they looked at the girl who was speaking confidently. They originally thought that she was going to commit suicide, but they did not expect that they would be sued by the other party just because they were watching the show and saying a few words. Changzhan, who was at the side, was also a little surprised. TXT 2016-inch website. 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download TXT on your phone. Peak. Chapter 1000. Changzhan and the others had the same thought at first. They thought that she had chosen to come to the rooftop because she couldn't bear the pressure and wanted to end her life to escape the world. He would never have thought that she really came here just to stand tall and attract more attention. When she took out the loudspeaker, He knew that she would definitely not choose to jump. At that time, he also thought that she had taken out the loudspeaker to tell everyone that she had not said those things to prove her innocence. He was wrong. She had indeed said that she had not done those things, but she had said it casually. Her biggest goal was to tell everyone here that they had been sued by her. Yes, that was her goal. Chang Zhan's eyes were smiling as he stood beside her and listened to her serious and calm words. At that moment, there was no math problem in his eyes, only her. They had all underestimated this very courageous girl. Hearing her read out the names of those people, one of the people in the crowd would always have a change in expression and mumble to himself, "Why is my name here?" He glanced at that person, and the person left dejectedly. He didn't think that person could escape. She must have been very well prepared. Tangwa read this list of thousands of people for a long time. Every time she read out a person's name, that person would cover his face and leave. The reporters were very excited and quickly took pictures of these scenes. In the end, when Tangwa read out the names of some of the reporters who had started the rumors, they couldn't be excited anymore. They took their cameras and ran out dejectedly. They didn't expect that their peers would react first and take a picture of each other. The more they refused to be outdone, the more they took a few pictures of each other. They felt that if they were going to die, they would all die. At some point, it started to drizzle. No one spoke anymore. Only the voice of the girl with the loudspeaker could be heard. Those who were drenched in the rain didn't know that this rain wasn't simple. Zhuoran and Wei Liang squatted on the ground in a daze, looking at the girl on the rooftop. She was a little different from the one they had seen before. Bai Fei clenched her fists and looked at those people's ashen faces. She felt very happy. "Does she think that she can sue and sue as she pleases?" someone asked. "That's right. We didn't break the law. What can she sue us for? She said that we spread rumors. Does she have any evidence?" At this moment, there were rows of luxury cars parked outside the school. God knows how many of them there were. The door of the car opened, and a group of men and women in suits and leather shoes got out of the car with serious faces. Their faces ranged from Eastern to Western. Some had yellow skin, some had white skin, and some had black skin. They were all holding briefcases in their hands. Beside them was an assistant with the same skin tone, holding a thick pile of documents. As soon as this group of people appeared, they attracted countless people's attention. They showed their credentials and showed that they were lawyers who had taken over the case of Tangwa's classmate. The group of people walked into the school and arrived at the building where Tangwa was standing. "Miss Tang, everything is ready. When can we start?" 30 lawyers and 30 assistants stood below at the same time. Those who were originally hoping to get lucky looked at this unfamiliar scene. Those who were slightly knowledgeable recognized some of the top lawyers. At that time, their faces turned pale. "We can start now," Tangwa said coldly. TXT 2016 website, 100,000. After finishing this book, you can download TXT directly on your phone. Top. Chapter 1001. Thousands of people were sued at the same time and were brought to court at the same time. The person who sued them was just a high school student. This matter caused a sensation around the world that day, especially this high school student who invited 30 of the world's top lawyers. They had fought countless lawsuits and rarely lost. Some of them had never lost at all. With such a strong lineup, no one would not be attracted. That day, reporters from all over the world decided to come and watch this unprecedented lawsuit, especially the defendants. There were thousands of them. It was said that the lawyers had absolute evidence against them. These 30 people could already represent the world's top lawyers. Since they dared to appear in such a high-profile manner, it meant that they had absolute confidence. There were thousands of defendants. It was impossible to hold it in a formal court. Moreover, this very epic lawsuit was also taken over by the Supreme Court. For fairness, it was broadcasted worldwide. The global broadcast was requested by Tangwa. Before the people in the country could react, this matter was announced to the world by her. Almost every corner of the world, as long as there was internet, knew about this matter. Therefore, it was impossible for those who wanted to elope. It was impossible for those who wanted to do anything else. This was a trial that was completely open to the public. In the end, They settled on the location of Tangwa's high school. This was suggested by Tangwa. She said at the time, "Above us is the blue sky, and below us is the earth. Let's all stand here and have a good talk. You people who started rumors, slandered me, attacked me personally, and traumatized my heart and mind. None of you can escape." At that time, everyone present was shocked by this young girl who was only 17 years old. She stood in the middle of a group of adults with a serious expression. She was not afraid at all. Her aura was impossible to ignore. Her clean and bright eyes seemed to shine into their hearts. A month later, the trial began. That day, countless people came to the high school to listen in. Not only were there people from the country, but there were also people from other countries. All the members of the school were there. Because in this school, only a small number of people did not slander Tangwa. The rest were all the defendants. On this day, countless people looked at the grand occasion at the defendant's stand, their hearts filled with shock. Among the onlookers, some of them had a look of relief in their eyes, while others had a relaxed smile on their faces. There were even some who were willing to testify in court. In the past, they didn't stand up because they couldn't bear the consequences. No one could be like that girl, who could think of suing these people after being subjected to countless filthy words. Most of them were from ordinary families. They had no courage or financial resources. Therefore, they admired her very much. This girl was really too amazing. She actually dared to do such a thing. It was impossible for Su Meihui to not know about such a big matter. She had just finished such an important project when she saw a piece of news that shocked the world. A trial with thousands of defendants was about to begin. When she saw the news, she was stunned for a moment. When she saw the girl on the news who wasn't afraid of being reported, she was completely stunned. When she came back to her senses, she rushed back from outside the city. After getting off the plane, he rushed to school while talking to Tangwa on the phone. His voice was still trembling, and he was about to cry. TXT 2016 website. 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download TXT from your mobile phone. Vertex. Chapter 1002. Why didn't you tell Mom about such a big thing? Tangwa's eyes were smiling, and her voice was much gentler. That would delay Mom's work. I can handle this kind of thing. You're only 17. I'm almost 18. I'll be 18 very soon, Tangwa said. Su Meihui couldn't bear to blame her, because she had seen the things on the news. She couldn't blame her. She was careless and only cared about earning money to create a good living condition for her and her daughter. She thought that her daughter was really fine just because she looked fine. How could she have known that her only daughter had been attacked by countless people ever since she entered that high school? She couldn't imagine that if her daughter hadn't been so strong, would the outcome have been different today? The little girl standing on the rooftop might not have chosen to take out the loudspeaker to tell everyone that they were being sued. Instead, she would have jumped down from the tall building amidst the crowd's disdain and shouts, falling to a bloody pulp. She didn't dare to imagine the consequences at all. She held the phone with trembling hands. Guagua, Mom will be there soon. Mom will accompany you. Since her daughter had chosen this path, as her mother, she had to stand by her side and face it with her. Those people who were full of evil intentions should indeed be sued and punished. Her Guagua had done the right thing. The only thing wrong was that she hadn't told her about this. She remembered how Tangwa had once borrowed money from her and realized that Guagua had probably planned to do these things at that time. There were too many questions in her heart. She didn't want to go now. She just wanted to rush to Tangwa's side as quickly as possible and face the group of detestable defendants with her daughter. Su Meihui arrived very quickly. Her eyes were red as she walked in front of Tangwa and hugged her tightly. The mother and daughter stood in the plaintiff's seat in the end. This trial went on for a long time. All the defendants were fearless at the beginning. They argued that they didn't spread rumors or say anything to slander Tangwa. She had made all of this up. If she couldn't produce evidence, they would sue her for slander. Those in the know suddenly felt that this group of ferocious-looking people was somewhat scary. They jumped to their feet, filled with righteous indignation. They expressed their thoughts and denounced Tangwa for lying. It was really ugly. At the defendant's stand, countless people were feeling smug. There were so many of them that their saliva was about to drown the other side. "I have a witness," Tengwa said. Next, it was time for the witnesses to appear. The first witness was Bai Fei. Bai Fei had always been timid, but this time, she wasn't afraid to stand in front of tens of thousands of people and express her thoughts. This was the first time she walked up to so many unfamiliar faces without fear. She puffed out her chest and smiled confidently. She clearly described the various verbal attacks that Tengwa had suffered when she came to this school, and clearly pointed out who had said what. She didn't know why. At this moment, she could clearly recall every scene of the past. After she went down, many witnesses came up one after another. One of them was actually Changzhan. He had a serious expression on his face as he recounted many things that had happened in school. Zuoran and Weiliang, who were in the defendant's seat, admitted their sins first. They said that they had made some false statements and caused Tengwa psychological harm. They were willing to accept the punishment. TXT 2016 website 100000. After finishing this book, mobile phone can directly download TXT. The Summit. Chapter 1003. The appearance of these two traitors infuriated the rest of the people. They criticized them one after another. These two rich second-generation heirs were not good people to begin with. What they liked most was to learn how to tease little girls. They had changed girlfriends countless times, and each time, it did not last long. It was obvious that their characters were bad, so it was not strange that they would do such things. Zuoran and Weiliang stood in the same spot in annoyance. Listening to the countless voices criticizing them, their expressions became even more numb. So this was how she reacted when she was verbally attacked. They raised their heads and looked in the direction of Tengwa. That girl still had a faint smile on her face, and her beautiful face was full of confidence. Even though so many people were denying it, she did not panic. While the defendants were still discussing how they had not verbally attacked Tengwa, there was a commotion at the plaintiff's table. After the judge agreed to present the evidence in front of the crowd fell silent. Every corner of the world was broadcasting the trial live. When they saw the video on the screen, they were all stunned. Especially those who had jumped up from the defendant's table to say that they had not verbally attacked Tengwa and had not verbally insulted Tengwa were actually shown in these videos. The videos were all in the public domain. These people's expressions were hideous. Some were mocking, some were jealous, and some were discussing this girl named Tengwa in whispers or loud voices. Look at her. If she's not selling herself, what is she? I heard that she comes from a single-parent family. When she was in her first year of high school, I even saw her mother dressed to the nines. This daughter must have learned from her mother. Otherwise, she would know how to dress up at such a young age and use her beauty to exchange for money. Her mother can't be a kept woman. She must have accidentally given birth to her after her mother became a kept woman, right? I heard that her mother is a part manager of a big company. She's only in her 30s. The last time I passed by their company, I saw her pulling with a pot-bellied man. He must be her boss. Pfft, how shameless. How unlucky. Why do we have such a classmate? That's right. If only she wasn't in our class. The various camera angles changed, and the people in the video did not realize that they looked really ugly when they were discussing these things. In the defendant's table, no one spoke. Their faces were all red. They looked up with their eyes bulging, with anger and disbelief. In fact, they did not even think that they would look really ugly in the video. The scene changed to Tengwa's class. Everyone at the scene, including the whole world, heard this group of teenage girls discussing whether or not Tengwa had condoms in her bag. They even encouraged Tengwa's deskmate to check her bag. Who would have thought that this girl named Suji would really go and look through it? Hey! She must have dressed herself prettily after school to be picked up by her sugar daddy. Countless people found it hard to imagine that such vicious words would actually come from the mouths of these young and innocent girls. Next, the video was played of each of the defendants slandering, attacking, and insulting Tengwa. TXT 2016-inch website. 100,000. You can download the TXT directly on your mobile phone. Chapter 1004. They didn't seem to be avoiding anything. They were loudly proclaiming how dirty the girl was in public. The viewers were furious. They felt that these people were really dirty. Their hearts, brains, and mouths were dirty. They looked dirty everywhere. When they saw a group of reporters quietly squatting in a corner, whispering about how they were going to exaggerate and report about the girl, their hearts churned and they felt like vomiting. Many terrible news stories were fabricated by this group of false reporters in order to attract attention. They would never consider how much harm the rumors would bring to the people involved. What they cared about was how many people saw the news, how many people it attracted, how many times it was reposted, how many comments it received, and how many people were discussing the news they wrote. At this time, they might have brewed a cup of coffee and sipped it while leisurely moving the mouse. They looked at this group of fools who had been deceived by them, arguing about the rumors they had fabricated. They were very pleased with themselves. They cursed in their hearts. Stupid, stupid. The scene changed again. It was the day when Tanghua was standing on the rooftop. Most of the defendants were watching from below. When they saw the girl's legs dangling in the air from such a high place, everyone around the world was shocked. Even though they knew that the girl was standing safely on her original seat, they couldn't help but worry that she would fall down. Then, when they heard the words coming from inside, they were so angry that they almost smashed the phones and computers in front of them. The two boys admitted their mistakes and announced the truth. They said that they had never kept such a girl as a mistress and that there was nothing between them. After that, the people below started to discuss. Everyone's face was magnified and given a close-up. These words were, in order to save their classmate, these two boys are really benevolent. They actually forgot about all the mistakes and took the blame. Yeah, that's right. When it comes to buying your money, nothing else matters. That girl is really making a mountain out of a molehill. She was so desperate because of some rumors. You've been sitting there for so long. Why didn't you jump down? Yeah, didn't you want to jump? Why didn't you jump? Kids these days really can't take any pressure. In contrast, the rescue workers on the other side were all very serious. Everyone was busy preparing for the rescue. This group of people, whose hearts, minds, and mouths were filled with malicious intent, were still discussing when the girl was going to jump, how she was going to jump, and whether she was going to jump or not. Countless parents with children were so angry that they were hopping on the spot. The ugly faces of those people had really opened their eyes to the world. When Tanghua explained that she was going to sue them, a funny thing happened. Many people actually slipped away with their tails between their legs. They even saw several reporters taking photos of each other. In the end, it also showed the parents outside the school who were filled with righteous indignation and demanded that the school expel Tanghua. Without any explanation, they threw all the buns, youtiao, and whatever else they could throw at Tanghua. If it wasn't for a tall boy protecting her from the beginning, this girl would have been smashed into a sorry state. Everyone was already numb when they heard a well-dressed parent calling her a little bitch. TXT 2016 website, 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download TXT from your mobile phone. Vertex. Chapter 1005. Those who had their ugly side highlighted in the video and broadcasted live to the entire world turned red. They wanted to say something, but they couldn't. In the face of the truth, they couldn't deny it. They were the ones in the video. They were also the ones who said those things. They thought that if they didn't admit it, everything would be fine. There were so many people on the defendant's side. Could that girl really sue them? When the video was broadcasted for the entire world to see, their faces turned ashen. Especially those who had a good status and maintained a good, humble, and polite image at work, at home, and in the eyes of outsiders. At this moment, their image was completely destroyed. They couldn't imagine how the people around them would look at them after today. When they thought of that scene, their scalps went numb and their hearts turned cold. Those who were usually called outstanding students also hung their heads with red faces. They clenched their fists and pursed their lips. Their eyes were filled with anger and regret. They weren't regretting that they did something wrong, but that when they said those words, they were recorded by the camera. What was more frightening was that everyone saw their hideous faces. Even if they didn't have to bear criminal responsibility, they were still young. So many people saw what they said. What would they do in the future? In the defendant's seat, most of them were upset. Why did Tangwa have such evidence? They couldn't deny it. Tangwa didn't care what they were upset about. She didn't care if they would realize their mistakes. She only had one goal today, and that was to make them pay the price. The impact of this incident was very big. Just before today, countless posts of people who had been slandered and verbally attacked had popped up. These victims who were still alive had all recounted their experiences. They all admired this little girl. She actually dared to face the difficulties and sue this group of despicable people. There were also relatives of the victims who talked about the pressure the victims suffered when they were alive. In the end, they got all kinds of mental and psychological problems. In the end, they couldn't be treated and chose to commit suicide. Everywhere, all over the world, there were many people who were verbally attacked like this. Finally, someone was willing to sow discord and sue the group of murderers. They could only clap their hands vigorously, sit in front of the computer, or hold their phones, cheering for her, and at the same time, announce their encounter. They only hoped that these people would receive the harshest punishment. As long as they were punished, there would be fewer and fewer people who would casually spread rumors and malicious words in the future. Because of the importance that people all over the world attached to this case, countless victims jointly submitted a petition, and the trial of this case was very fast. The people who were sued by Tangwa were sentenced to a maximum of 3 years in prison, while the minimum was 6 months. Those who had not reached the legal age were fined. These people who were not responsible for their own words had to pay Tangwa a huge sum of money. Their parents did not educate them well, and this was the teaching fee. Of course, many people were unconvinced and unwilling, so they filed an appeal. They thought that they would at least have a chance to make a comeback. They did not expect that the Supreme Court would reject their request. No matter how many times they pleaded, they were always rejected. The justice of the law made people all over the world excited, especially the victims and their families. Even though they knew that most of the time, there was no absolute fairness in this world. It should be said that there was no fairness in the first place. But through the efforts of that girl and all of them, those people were punished. This was what they wanted. TXT 2016 website. 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download TXT on your phone. Peak. Chapter 1006. Not long after the lawsuit ended, Tangwa sued her school as well. Relying on a lot of evidence, the school did not investigate the rumors. Under the pressure of various parents, they expelled her directly. She also had 30 outstanding lawyers to help her. Naturally, she won. After suing the school, she also sued the teacher who humiliated her in class. The onlookers all thought that she was crazy. She only smiled and said, "If you didn't want to be sued by me, you shouldn't have done those things in the first place. They have already violated my rights. Why can't I sue them?" Naturally, that teacher also lost the lawsuit. In the end, she was even expelled by the school and was labeled as a permanent employee. Not long after, her teaching license was revoked. After receiving compensation from numerous defendants, Tangwa created a foundation as the victim of verbal attacks. The foundation's declaration was that if anyone spread rumors, slandered, or verbally attacked them, as long as they did not do these things, the foundation would be willing to fight for them forever. With both fame and fortune, the 30 world-famous lawyers also quickly expressed their willingness to fight for these victims for the rest of their lives and protect their rights. After the incident, Tangwa gave them the compensation they deserved. She posted every sum of compensation she received on her social media account. From now on, every expenditure would be based on this. This action caused countless people to donate to the foundation, especially those who had grown up and survived the most painful and difficult times. Now, the victims who were doing well donated the most money to the foundation. They hoped that there would be fewer rumors and slanders in this world, so that their next generation would not have to suffer the terrible verbal attacks that they had suffered in the past. Those who were originally prepared to speculate whether she would use these to gain benefits for herself lowered their heads in shame. Thinking that this was a young lady who would sue the person who spread the rumors to court, They were very glad that they did not subconsciously spread rumors that she was abusing her power for personal gain. After this, Tangwa proposed to transfer schools. When the major schools heard that she was transferring schools, they all extended an olive branch to her. They all knew about Tangwa's grades. She was an outstanding student who only had 1 point deducted from her Chinese essay. She chose another school in the city. It wasn't as famous as the previous one, but it was closer to home and had a good climate. Everyone thought that everything would come to an end. After Tangwa won the lawsuit, no one would dare to bully her in the future. Those who spread rumors would not dare to act rashly. Those who lost the case, even though they were unwilling, still filed appeals again and again. No one dared to do anything to them. However, they did not know that the group of defendants did not file another appeal after a month. When their relatives and friends saw their pale faces again, they were very surprised and hurriedly asked them what had happened recently. These people only shook their heads and bitterly smiled. Their eyes were filled with despair and fear, and they did not say anything. The people outside did not know that what they were most afraid of now was the arrival of night. Every time night came, they would lie in bed and close their eyes. The moment they fell asleep, they would go to a terrifying world. That world was not friendly at all. The whole world was attacking them verbally. Vicious words covered the sky and covered the earth. Those people spoke as if they had really done something that they had not done. No matter where they went, they would be met with disdainful and mocking gazes. TXT 2016 website. Less than 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download the TXT on your phone. Peak. Chapter 1007. Have you ever experienced a time when everyone was unfriendly to you? What they had experienced was that the whole world was unfriendly to them. For example, when someone said that they had stolen something, they argued in their dreams that they had not stolen anything. However, those people mocked them and said, "The people in our class are all from good families. You're the only one who is the poorest. If you didn't steal it, who did?" In their dreams, their faces turned red and they said that they had not stolen it. You still dare to quibble. If you didn't steal it, why would it be under your desk drawer? Yeah, such a dirty student is actually from our class. It's really embarrassing. If you can't afford it, so be it. Why did you steal other people's things? Tell the teacher. You must tell the teacher about this. Don't be friends with such a bad student in the future. They thought that the teacher would definitely investigate the matter. However, under the words of those students, the teacher actually believed that they had stolen from their classmates. Teacher, I didn't steal it. Teacher, he stole it. I saw him steal it. The teacher said, if you do something wrong, you must have the courage to admit it. Student, stealing is a bad habit. Lying is also a bad habit. I hope you can realize your mistake. In class later, you have to apologize in front of the whole class and reflect on your actions. They were in despair. They did not understand why the teacher did not believe them. They refused to admit it, thinking that this would definitely attract attention and let people find out the truth. They did not expect the teacher to inform their parents that they had stolen from their classmates. They thought that their parents would definitely believe them. However, they did not expect their father to come up and give them a slap. Then, he scolded, "Little brat, you actually learned how to steal?" They argued, "I didn't steal anything." Parent, the students have all testified that they saw him steal with their own eyes. I didn't expect him to be unwilling to admit his mistake and even scold his classmates. Parent, you should take him back and teach him well. When they saw their parents, their faces turned red and they hurriedly bowed with an apologetic smile on their faces, indicating that they would. Just like that, they were brought home and naturally, they were beaten up. When the neighbors heard this and asked about the truth, they would comment, "Children should be educated well. When they are young, they steal needles. When they grow up, they steal gold. Just beat them a little." They were beaten up, but they couldn't say anything. They obviously didn't do anything. So why did these people slander them for stealing? From that day onwards, everyone who knew them knew that he had stolen something. This dream was especially long. It should be said that it was a dream of a lifetime. The people who had this dream all had different endings. Some of them really became thieves because they couldn't stand the rumors. When they were young, they stole small things. When they grew up, they stole big things. In the end, they were caught and sent to jail. They didn't accomplish anything and their lives were ruined. A portion of them couldn't stand the various rumors and slanders and tried their best to prove their innocence. In the end, they were attacked more and more. In the end, they couldn't take it anymore and chose to commit suicide. When this group of people jumped down from the tall building, they saw a bloody mess in front of their eyes. They were immediately awakened. When he saw the darkness around him, he realized that it was a dream. They rejoiced that it was just a dream, but they never thought that from that day onwards, this dream would never end, and they would have the same dream every night. TXT2016 website 100000. After finishing this book, mobile phone can directly download TXT. Vertex. Chapter 1008. The last group of people made it through. Some of them achieved success in a certain field, while others lived a mediocre life. However, they all had one thing in common. The things that happened back then caused them deep psychological damage. Because of this, they brought a lot of trouble and mental illness to their lives. They were unable to walk out of it for the rest of their lives. Regardless of which group of people it was, after experiencing this, they suffered serious psychological damage. The person who dreamt that he was framed as a thief was a boy from the high school. The girls in the high school dreamed of the original Tangwa's life. They had the same dream every day. Those terrible and unpleasant words filled the entire dream world. Helplessness, panic, fear, escape filled their hearts. As for the parents, the teachers who did not do anything in the school, the reporters, and a series of bystanders, their dreams were different again. They were still bystanders in the dream. The people they looked at coldly were actually their children. They watched with their own eyes as their children were slandered and attacked by countless people. They could not even control their own words and actions. They followed everyone else to bully their own children. In the dream, they wanted to wake up and control their actions. They did not know why, but they could not control themselves. Because of this pressure, their children's lives were changed. Perhaps they could not bear the pressure and committed suicide. Perhaps they suffered from serious psychological problems. Perhaps they were mediocre, or perhaps they still had extraordinary achievements in their lives. However, their personalities became extreme and scary. They did not have a normal life. They finished the dream with bloodshot eyes. When they woke up, they were covered in cold sweat. When they thought of everything in the dream, that despair still filled their hearts and lingered for a long time. They had no idea that this was just the beginning. Whenever they fell asleep, this dream would appear. They had to experience this life again. What a scary dream. What a scary life. It was a life where there was no hope, and there was nothing they could do. The next day, these people who had terrible dreams would still go on with their work and lives. At night, everything would repeat. As for Whaleyong and Zwaran, what they saw in their dreams was also what Tangwa had experienced. This time, they were still bystanders and participants. Every time they saw themselves in the dream doing those things to Tangwa, they wanted to stop them. But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't stop it. In the dream, they were cold and indifferent. They could only stare at everything that was happening, especially at the last moment. When the him in the dream heard her climb to the rooftop, he thought it was a joke and was still playing in the bar. They wished that they could drag out their loathsome selves and give them a good beating. In the end, they saw with their own eyes that the beautiful girl jumped down under the jeering of a group of people. He fell in front of them. His flesh was badly mangled, blood splashed all over the ground. Everything before their eyes was red. This young girl's life ended in front of them just like that. Especially the people around her. They didn't seem to sympathize with her. They were still discussing her death in low voices. They even took photos and told the people they knew that the kept girl had jumped off a building. They finally couldn't take it anymore. They roared loudly and rushed into the crowd, wanting to kill these people. TXT2016 website 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download TXT from your mobile phone. Vertex. Chapter 1009. At this moment, they woke up. Looking at the dark room, they fumbled for the switch and turned on the lights. Subconsciously, they reached for their phones and looked at the news. The news reported that the girl had won the lawsuit and that she had set up a rumor foundation. Now that she had transferred to another school, her grades were still excellent. Looking at her photos and her social media posts, the two of them heaved a sigh of relief. They did not expect that every night that followed, such a terrible scene would still appear. That young life would end in front of their eyes again and again. They were completely powerless to stop it. In the dream, they were cold, heartless, hateful, and dirty. After countless nights like this, Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran became thinner and thinner. Once in the middle of the night, the two of them forced themselves not to sleep and talked on the phone. Zhuo Ran, how good would it be if everything could start over again? After this sentence, the two of them were silent. After a long time, Zhuo Ran said, but this world has not started over. Everything is just our wishful thinking. Wei Liang, everything can't be redone. Even if it is, many things will be different. What is done is done. What is wrong is wrong. There is no medicine for regret in this world. Yeah, no. Wei Liang murmured and smiled. Fortunately, she persevered. Otherwise, I would definitely go crazy. Yeah, fortunately, she persevered, Zhuo Ran said. If everything was really the same as in the dream, he would really go crazy. The two of them stood on the balcony, holding their phones and looking at the lights of the city. They looked at the passing cars and did not speak for a long time. Zhuo Ran, yes? Let's go and apologize to her. Whether she forgives us or not, we still need a formal apology. What do you think? Zhuo Ran sighed. Yes, we should apologize. The next day, Tanguo walked out of the school gate after school and saw Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran. Both of them didn't look too good. Their faces were drained of blood. When they saw her, they quickly walked over. The students from the same school knew them. Thinking that they were going to do something, they quickly surrounded Tanguo. The students of this school admired this new transfer girl. They were usually gossiped about, but they couldn't do what the other party did. They really enjoyed watching the live broadcast of the trial and felt refreshed. When they saw the two of them, they thought that they were here to bully Tanguo. Unexpectedly, the two of them knelt down in front of Tanguo and said sincerely, "We're sorry." They didn't explain much and just apologized several times. When the surrounding students saw that they were here to apologize, they made way for them. Tanguo walked up to them, bowed slightly and said, "I accept your apology, but I won't forgive you." Not all apologies would be forgiven. It's not like I have to forgive you just because you've realized your mistakes. The two of them looked at each other. They had never asked for forgiveness. We're just here to apologize. We never thought of asking for your forgiveness. Wei Liang said, we were wrong in the past. We will be good people in the future. We will definitely not let such things happen again. We also hope that you can be well. Zhuo Ran nodded as well. This was indeed their goal. They actually didn't think that this girl who they wanted to tease had unknowingly taken up residence in their hearts. They couldn't get rid of her no matter how hard they tried. Chapter 10:10. But with her personality, it was impossible for them to be together. Tanguo looked at their expressions and laughed. Do you feel better after apologizing? Do you feel less guilty? Her words were not pleasant to the ears and were sarcastic, but they had to admit that it was the regret and guilt in their hearts that made them come to apologize. Tanguo lowered her voice again. The two of them were curious about what she wanted to say. They did not move away and allowed her to approach. Then, along with the cool breeze, a voice that was a little cold and pleasant to the ear reached their ears. Are you guys glad that I didn't end up like what you guys saw in your dreams, where I jumped down from a tall building and ended up in a bloody mess? The two of them jerked their heads up and looked at her in disbelief. How did she know that they had such a dream? No, they were more concerned about the meaning of her words. Your hearts are beating faster now. Although the answer might not be what you like, I still have to say it. Tanguo lowered her voice. Have you ever doubted that I'm not her, and that I'm only back to fulfill her last wish and prove her innocence? She still has too many regrets in this world. She left with hatred, leaving behind a group of people who were just watching the show and did evil without being punished. Do you think she would be satisfied? The two of them looked even worse. These words flashed in their minds over and over again. Wei Liang finally exploded. You're lying, Xiaogua. You must be taking revenge on me, right? How could the things in the dream be real? How could she really jump down and end her life so easily? No, impossible. How could it be possible? She was so beautiful, innocent, and strong. How could she really jump down from such a high place? No, impossible. She must be lying. The two of them stared at Tang Guo with their hearts thumping. They did not believe that she was standing in front of them. How could such a thing happen? Tang Guo took out a gem that was worth hundreds of millions of yuan from her pocket and showed it to them. She whispered into their ears, would a girl who owns a gem worth hundreds of millions of yuan still work part-time? A girl whose mother is just a department manager, yet she still has to work part-time. Can she afford to hire 30 of the world's top lawyers? Tang Guo chuckled softly. Paying them isn't money. They don't lack money. They're richer than all of you. What do you think? If you want to say that I made tens of millions by trading stocks, then I want to ask, can a high school student really do all this? In just half a year, he used less than 500,000 renminbi to double it. Can a high school student do that? Finally, don't you doubt how I know you're dreaming? Her voice became softer and softer, as though only they could hear it. It was even a little hoarse. Because you will dream. It was me who did it. You will be haunted by this nightmare for the rest of your lives. You will be tormented day and night, watching her fall in front of you. You will not be able to rest in peace for the rest of your lives. You will pay the price for the mistakes you've made. It's not just the two of you. It's everyone who was involved in this. She stood up with a pure and sweet smile on her face. Xiaogua. Chang Zhan's voice came from afar, and it sounded a little anxious. Bai Gua, Noo, Nob, O1C, Quick Wear, Supporting Female Lead, Calm Down Claw Book Room O1D, Gu, Noo, Section Noo, Time Free 05, Read 002, Peak. Chapter 10-11. He quickly walked in front of her and coldly glanced at Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang, who were still in a daze. Did they cause trouble for you? No. Tang Guo smiled and said, they came to apologize to me. I didn't forgive them, and I can't forgive them. When the two of them heard this, their faces turned pale and they couldn't regain their composure. Chang Zhan breathed a sigh of relief and walked in front of Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang. His tone softened. You'd better not disturb her. I won't disturb her anymore. Wei Liang stared at Tang Guo as he spoke. He didn't want to believe that Tang Guo was telling the truth, but thinking of everything that had happened to Tang Guo these days, he had to believe that the smiling girl in front of him wasn't the original Tang Guo. As for who she was, he had no way of knowing. And he only knew that the original Tang Guo was really killed by them. She really jumped down from such a high place and fell into a bloody mess. It was exactly the same as in the dream. Zhuo Ran was speechless for a moment. His whole mind was buzzing, and the image in his mind was the scene of the girl jumping down. His fingers were white. It turned out that it wasn't a dream. It was real. It had happened. He finally knew what was wrong with the girl in front of him. Yes, this person wasn't the original one. Everything was wrong. You still have a few days of freedom. You can go wherever you want. Chang Zhan didn't know the guilt and complexity in their hearts. He only thought that they were disappointed because they couldn't be forgiven. It's normal that she doesn't forgive you. From now on, don't disturb her and don't appear in front of her. When you're out, you can live a new life. And yes, they still had to go to prison, because he was still a little young. If it was in the past, his family would have helped them settle this situation. This time, the matter was too big. Perhaps it was to catch a model. In addition, his family didn't say anything this time, indicating that they wanted to help them settle this matter. Therefore, they had to stay in prison for as long as they needed to. What was their family afraid of? They were all wondering if the girl who was standing behind Chang Zhan and being protected by him was her. She had the ability to hire 30 of the world's top lawyers and the ability to broadcast the trial live to the world, exposing their ugliness to the world. She was able to sue thousands of people and even succeeded. She even wanted to sue the school, and she succeeded. She was sought after by victims of hate speech all over the world. She set up a foundation and received the largest donations. If she dared to donate, what else would she not dare to do? How could such a person be a mere high school student? Recalling everything that had happened in the dream, they were overshadowed and left in the end. It turned out that the dream wasn't fake. They had really killed someone. If it wasn't for this girl's arrival, they would still have killed her. Since she was so capable, why didn't she stop it from the beginning? When they thought about what they had experienced in the past few days, they were suddenly stunned. They seemed to have understood something, and their eyes turned red. They sat in the car and watched as the girl took the ice cream from Changzhan's hand and ate it happily. Their eyes became hot. Zoran, do you think that during the time she spent with us, she was giving us a chance to start over? If we weren't so evil, would the final outcome be different? TXT 2016-inch website. 100,000. After finishing this book, you can download TXT directly on your phone. Peak. Chapter 10-12. Other than this, I can't think of any other reason why she would waste so much time with us when she's so capable. Zoran leaned against the car seat and said hoarsely, "Yes, I think so." So, she gave us a chance to correct our mistakes? Wei Liang's voice was choked with sobs as he covered his face with both hands. We didn't realize it and didn't cherish it. It should be said that our bones are filled with vile and dirty thoughts. Without everything that happened today, we would never understand that we were wrong, right?
Yes.
Zoran replied, "Yes, if there weren't serious consequences, we would never realize our mistakes." The two of them fell into silence and didn't speak again. A few days later, Changzhan told Tanghua that Zoran and Wei Liang had gone to serve their sentences. Both of them were sentenced to 3 years. Because of Tanghua's incident, the law had been corrected. 1 ton. 1 ton and 1 T/I, although there were still many unfairness in this world, and some things were still unable to be controlled by the law. But through the efforts of many people, this world was slowly becoming better. No matter when one lived, one would experience all kinds of difficulties. Some things could be changed through hard work. No matter what it was, it couldn't be the same. Because my time is limited, I only want to do things that I feel comfortable with. Although the methods are sometimes extreme, Tanghua said to the system, "As long as you feel comfortable, there's no need to care so much. Anyway, I'm not a good person." System. But the host is a person with principles. It really couldn't praise the host as a good person. After all, the host really wasn't a good person. But having principles could indeed be praised. As long as the host wasn't provoked, she wouldn't hurt anyone. Once she was provoked, anyone would be unlucky. The host wasn't a good person, but she would do some good things, even if it wasn't a good thing from her point of view. Most of these things, to her, were just things that she was interested in and did on a whim. But these things were still things that countless people didn't have the courage to do, and they couldn't do it. She once said, "Since you have the ability to resist, why let yourself live so sullenly?" Patience is for those who don't have the ability to hear it. If you don't have the ability to resist, then you have to be patient. Rules? It's used to restrain the people at the bottom. Look at the rules of the cultivation world. The strong were respected, because in the immortal cultivation world, everyone had the potential to become a strong person. Even a weak person at the beginning would not be willing to be bound by the rules. Only people in cages would pay attention to the rules, because they have to survive in this cage. If they don't follow the rules, this place will become chaotic. Only the heavens and earth can restrain those who cultivate. Or perhaps I should say that the cage they live in only cares about the strong and the rules of strength. I can make a simple analogy. When a poor family buys vegetables, they will record it in their account book and bargain. Even though life is hard, they want to eat meat. In order to survive, they have to resist the urge to drool and only buy vegetables. But as a rich person, it was different. With money, what couldn't they buy? You can buy whatever you want. System. So, host, What you're trying to say is that if you don't want to be wronged, if you don't want to live a sullen life, then you have to be capable, have status, and have money, right? TXT2016 website. 100,000. After finishing this book, you can download TXT directly from your mobile phone. Vertex. Chapter 10:13. Tongzi, you're really getting smarter and smarter. System. I seem to understand a little. For example, those who say that spirit is the most important and money is not. Firstly, it's the poor comforting themselves. Secondly, it's the materialistic rich who pursue spiritual needs. For example, those poor but hardworking people basically won't talk about these. They're already tired and busy enough for their daily lives. How can they talk about these useless things? In a trance, he seemed to understand a lot. It should be said that people with substance, regardless of whether they're rich or poor, have their own pursuits. They don't just fantasize and think about nonsense. Tanghua was amused. Please note that you're a system, not a human. Perhaps I can engage in research on human psychology in the future. If he followed his great host, perhaps there would be a day when he would leave these small worlds. At that time, he would definitely be engaged in a high-end job. Actually, he wanted to say something. Those who spread rumors were mostly bored and empty in their hearts. That was why they thought of spreading rumors about others, especially this kind of malicious rumor. It was not like the rumors that were full of purpose in the entertainment industry. Even if it was rumors in the entertainment industry and then followed to spread rumors and maliciously attack others, most of them were a group of bored people. For those busy people who had some free time, for their own goals and pursuits, the things they would do in their free time would definitely be to recharge their own futures. They would not go online to attack others verbally and vent the anger in their hearts. In the following days, Changzhan would pass by the alley where Tanghua's house was every day. Tanghua would take his car to school, and then he would continue to go to his school. Senior, you're about to take your exam. Why do you still have time to pick me up? Tanghua glanced at Changzhan. Do you think it's very troublesome? No. Changzhan held a pen in his hand and was doing an exam question. Changzhan was a very hard-working person. Even if he had a high IQ, he was still very serious about the upcoming exam. He believed that IQ was a gift from God. However, if one had IQ and did not learn, it would be a waste of this talent. The system sighed at the side. Host, this is the real definition of a rich second generation. Good upbringing, good character, and hard work. Ordinary people can't catch up to him at all. Yeah, Tanghua replied. If it's exposed, it'll just be an example. In this world, the rich would only get richer and richer. Most of the people who could become rich were not stupid. The most important thing was to nurture the next generation. However, there would be scum everywhere. Don't be deceived by these appearances. In fact, they are still working hard. Can you imagine a teenager who knows 3 or 4 or 5 languages? The system was speechless. Wasn't that right? In any case, after transmigrating to so many worlds, most of the rich people he met had very powerful descendants who would spend a lot of money to nurture them. Not long after, the college entrance examination began. In the end, Changzhan got into the best school in the country. Before he reported to the university, he would still let his driver drive Tanghua to school. It's actually not that troublesome. System. The host's words don't match her heart. She's obviously very happy. A woman's mouth is indeed a liar. It's not troublesome. Changzhan looked at Tanghua seriously and said faintly, I'll wait for you. Tanghua smiled. Wait for me for what? TXT2016 website. 100000. After finishing this book, you can directly download the TXT on your phone. Peak. When the people in that school found out that one of the freshmen was Tanghua, they were surprised. At the same time, they quickly reflected on whether they had secretly spoken ill of anyone recently, especially when there was no evidence to back it up. On the day of Tanghua's registration, the university was in harmony. Almost no one was gossiping about anyone in private anymore. Several teachers who were more distinctive were very satisfied with all this. This was because the few of them were often teased by their classmates. One of them was a math teacher. Because he was bald, he was always teased by the students in private. For this kind of thing, they couldn't just go up and scold him directly. The students were not to be trifled with. There was a female teacher. Because her figure was plump, many male students liked to secretly talk about her. TXT2016 website. 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download TXT on your mobile phone. Top. Chapter 10-15. Ever since Tanghua entered the school, she had almost never heard such comments. There was also a female classmate who had more acne on her face. People often secretly said that she was ugly, disgusting, and ugly. Actually, she had already tried her best to treat it, but the effect was not that obvious. Coupled with the outside world's comments, she was anxious and could not sleep at night. More and more acne appeared. There were also girls and boys who were slightly chubbier. They were all people who were secretly talked about. After Tanghua entered the school, there were almost no words about them. They could not help but sigh. The two words Tanghua were simply her way of dispelling all the rumors and slanders. Later, the math teacher went for a transplant. The female teacher became more confident. The girl with acne had successfully removed her acne, and the chubbier classmate had also succeeded in losing weight. Everything was going in a good direction. They were all somewhat grateful to the girl named Tanghua. She was the one who would leave holding hands with an especially handsome male classmate after class. Speaking of her boyfriend, they could not help but sigh. This senior Changzhan has a cold appearance to everyone, but in front of Tanghua, he's like a little wolf puppy. He's so cute and obedient that it almost blinded their eyes. The teachers in this school all said that the few years when Tanghua was in university could be called the most harmonious 4 years in their school. Perhaps it was the global live broadcast of the court hearing that alerted them that no matter what they said, it could be recorded. All the students had developed the habit of not casually talking about others. Without the facts, they would not casually spread rumors. Even if they read posts online, they would not casually repost them. They would subconsciously think, is it true, or is it just a rumor? Not casually talking about others, not attacking others. They suddenly realized that such a world was indescribably beautiful. When you met someone, you would praise them more. When others were beautiful, you would feel beautiful too. You praised them, they would praise you. It was really a harmonious and beautiful society. Tanghua's university days passed peacefully and beautifully just like that. On the day of graduation, she held Changzhan's hand and said, "Senior, do you want to get a certificate?" "Certificate? It's a marriage certificate. Do you want it?" Changzhan got nervous and said incoherently, I'm not ready to propose to you yet." "What marriage proposal? Let's get the marriage certificate first. I'm very busy. I have to give a lecture abroad next month." Changzhan didn't hesitate and quickly agreed. "Then let's get the car certificate." He was thinking about how to propose. Forgive him for not being able to think of anything romantic. In the end, he simply transferred all the shares under his name to Tanghua. He put the diamond ring on her finger and stuffed the bank card into her hands. "Xiaoguo, spend as you see fit. It's okay if you spend it all. I still have the ability to earn money." He could afford to take care of his wife. Although his wife was very good at spending money, spending hundreds of thousands or even tens of millions in just one lawsuit, he also knew how to make money. One business deal was worth hundreds of millions. Tanghua gladly accepted. Although she was not short of money, her man's money must be spent by her. "Xiaoguo, what kind of wedding do you want?" Tanghua smiled. "I've already prepared the wedding. Leave it to me." Love was for both parties. She had the ability and was willing to spoil him. How could she let him worry about everything? TXT2016 website. 100,000. After finishing this book, you can download the TXT directly on your phone. Peak. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.